About 1 in 300 people will receive an ALS diagnosis in their lifetime, which means that every 90 minutes, somebody will receive news that they have ALS. It can affect anybody, any age, any race, any gender. So that's also why it's important for people to care and for us to find treatments quickly. I'm Leah. I'm 29 years old, and about 4 years ago, I learned that I had ALS. I had a great, pretty easy childhood. I have 2 younger sisters. I spent a lot of time in the swimming pool. I did both normal swimming and a lot of synchronized swimming as well. I loved to dance, was quite social, had a lot of friends. I met my now husband, Hugo, who's French, and eventually we decided to go back to Paris. And so I lived there for a good few years. I started waking up with leg cramps during the night. I would go to yoga and my balance would feel a bit off.
I'm Jeff Stavenhagen. I'm Leah's dad and Chief Scientific Officer of 3D Bio. She would call us and say, I fell again, or, I keep tripping, or, and I think that started probably end of 2017, 2018.
Was referred to a neurologist and learned amyotrophic lateral sclerosis is a disease that exists and that I likely had it.
She went from having this great life, having just started a brand new job in Paris, to not really knowing what the future was going to bring.
I didn't even know what ALS was. You have to rethink your hopes and dreams. You're told that you have 2 to 5 years to live, and that just seems absurd.
You're not prepared for that, so it's always a struggle, to keep the emotions at bay.
I only saw really my husband's reaction directly. Of course, for me, it was a huge shock, really difficult. He was very upset in the beginning, but from that moment on, he was my rock and didn't look back. So you've got to roll with the punches. And I think I'm fortunate that my family and close ones kind of also have that mentality. It's a difficult disease where your independence is slowly stripped away, but at the same time your mind remains very strong. So there are only about 10% of patients that are diagnosed under the age of 40 it is, I believe. So I didn't really see people out there that looked like me, which is tough because disease is so isolating. And so I wanted to find another young female face out there having these same issues. And so I wanted to get involved with advocacy. And in doing so, I had the opportunity to gather stories of young women who had ALS. And through that, I started Her ALS Story. Today, we're over 50 women that are all living with ALS, diagnosed under age 35. And it's really, really special because it's a way for us to have a network, and so we have the support system to lean into. But on top of that, it's a way for us to put our voices together and say, these are our realities, and this is why we need better, more effective treatments, and we don't want to wait. I was presented with a book contract to write a book in French about my story, learning that I had ALS and adapting and what my life looks like today. The book's name is J'aimerais danser encore, and then that translates to I would like to dance again. When you're told you have such a short life expectancy, when the disease is so debilitating, you have to be able to do something to be proactive against your disease. So for a disease like ALS, clinical trials are difficult because you need to have had symptoms for less than 2 years. I was diagnosed and I was already disqualified for clinical trials 3 months later. That's not very long to find those options. The fact that my father's a research scientist and that he really understands these diseases, I've been fortunate to be able to lean on him. You know, he had the right connections to get me in front of a leading American neurologist. I started receiving umbilical cord Treg cells from a small biotech. The hypothesis was never that this would cure me of ALS, but rather that it could slow disease progression.
My current job now in San Francisco, we're working towards developing a drug that inhibits the neurodegeneration in a lot of different kinds of diseases.
Something like Gateway Labs is the opportunity to marry the resources of big pharma and the agility, the innovation of biotech to move things forward faster, because I think a big issue is that there is a lack of collaboration between pharma, laboratories, patients, biotech, and so that's kind of eradicating some of the barriers so that there can be better collaboration.
We, as an industry, tend to focus on areas we know best, areas where we know there are a large population that can benefit from it. But when you look at rarer diseases, they get less attention because they're hard. We've come a long way in drug development. There's still obviously a lot that we don't know in biology and human disease, but until we sort of put the effort in, we won't be able to get there.
For me, it's really not a question of if one day maybe we'll find treatments for ALS. We will, but it's a question of when. And for me, for my friends of her ALS story, we want it to be soon. We can't wait decades.